This fucking outfit gets hot too. All right. So, Cory, why don't you tell us what we're up to today and who we are?
Yeah, man. My name's Cory. We can do the full government. Cory Woods. With my boy Taj, the maestro. And we got this crazy multimedia setup right now. I think the goal of the day right now is just to like free flow over some, kind of some theory, some philosophy stuff around Web3 technology, innovation, some futurism stuff, crypto, and kind of the cross sectors of all those things, the convergence, of all these wild things going on that we're experiencing in evolution right now. The setup is crazy. I think the 360 camera went dead. That's like, Taj showed me some stuff earlier on that, man. It's wild. You guys are gonna get some of that action at one point. But yeah, I think we got like 3 or 4 camera setups. We got a bunch of angles. Got the lights set up, and Taj is doing the audio engineering while also doing video production simultaneously. It's like there's 4 people in this producing this thing we're doing right now, but I'm excited to just chop it up. My thing is like, I have these, kind of funky off-cuff conversations with people in the wild. And, I've heard a few times like, man, Cory, you're an interesting dude. Or, oh, you're like smart and intelligent or whatever. And not that I agree. I think I'm definitely interesting, intelligent. One could question, but I think, some of the people that I follow, or I follow their philosophy, Jacques Fresco, Tupac, there's a few others. The one thing that is in common, and the one thing that they all have in common, is that they've captured their thoughts. They've stamped their thoughts in time, and it becomes infinite, or it becomes I don't know, what would you call that, Taj? Like it never dies, right? Like to record something, to capture something in with technology. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. You immortalize it, right? Mm-hmm. And so these concepts and these thoughts from these philosophers and thought leaders immortalize their philosophies, right? And I don't do that enough. Actually, I really don't do that at all. Sometimes, little stuff on social media, but like not actually capturing, a raw sit down, chop it up session where you're like flowing, right? So yeah, I think this is dope. I think that's kind of what we're doing right now. And I'm looking forward to just soaking up some game from my boy.
Sweet. And tell me about 3.0, Web 3.0, Web 2.0, and then Zip's role in the middle of it. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Web 2.0. So there's like Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. Web 1, to my knowledge, was like very rudimentary systems that could servers that could house information, and they could kind of communicate to each other or disseminate. They could disseminate messages. It was like one direction, right? So like they could put it out there, and then someone else could like find it, but they couldn't interact with each other. Web 2 is like, now you have these channels of communication, and the information or data as information, or data as value, or information as value. But the internet from the rudimentary phase got consolidated to very few platforms, right? So it went from like this very fragmented, rudimentary Web 1 to this very centralized and concentrated Web 2, where the initial goal from Web 1 was leapfrogged, and then the kind of decentral nature of Web 1 got consolidated, but not, yeah, it got consolidated by very few players, and the ownership value went along with it. And so individuals, the millions, maybe billions of people that use the internet didn't actually own any of even their own data and interaction in Web 2. And so it left ground for like just very few entities, Twitter, YouTube, the beginning was like MySpace, you got Google, Yahoo, consider Zip to be, is like, it's made in Web 2.0, and from a technological standpoint, but we're working on integrations to where it can interact with decentralized platforms. So, and that's Web 3, right? So like blockchain specifically, blockchain is kind of like, simply put, blockchain is like the distributed ledger, a distributed ledger of transactions, and then tokenization through cryptography to wrap information and share the value, or allow people to own that wrapped information of value in this token that they can then distribute and monetize themselves. So, or benefit financially off of. So yeah, we want to interact in both worlds, Zip. But our true north is to really give people an opportunity to own their data, and and kind of dictate how that data is interacted with online, with whether it's Web 2 platforms, other Web 3 platforms, whether they're interacting with a platform on blockchain or in the legacy system, which is, we don't need to get in that. I'm not even super versed on that, but like HTML, Java, JavaScript, like Linux, and anyway, that's like the foundation that no one really cares about, but that's the stuff that runs the internet. So yeah, just kind of this on ramp to blockchain, also an on ramp to crypto, with the user experience, which I call UX, of platforms that they're used to, that people are used to using. So it's not that big of a learning curve, to jump in and start dabbling in Web3, because it's really important that people play around with and play around with Web3 and adopt Web3, because it is our future, and it's a very big shift of ownership, value, capital, resources, etc.
And then, so say I have a link tree. Why would I use a Zip? I already have a link tree.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, the two differentiators with Zip, between Zip and Linktree, is that Zip is a social network. So you have the network effect of, of whatever it is that you're presenting, because random people, random brands, etc., can find you through this network if they're looking for. We have tags we have users can add tags to their pages and to information that they're disseminating and publishing on Zip. So that serves our algorithm. So if your stuff's tagged with nature, hiking, outdoors, people are looking for that, they're going to find you. Whereas on the internet, again, Web 2 is owned by very few platforms, and so if you're not paying Google to have for their AdWords to have your website rank, then it's going to be very hard for someone to find you, even if what you have to offer is dope or quality. That's not really what the search engines of today are made for. They're made for advertising and to it's a big paywall, so it's pay to play. So Linktree, it's not social. To get back on that point, Zip is social. It's a social network inherently. And then where Zip resembles more of a website, whereas Linktree is like it's just cascading links on a page, whether it be mobile or on desktop, which is even worse because desktop inherently because of its size of screens, it's just more dynamic, right, than a mobile phone. And where I think Zip is far superior on a desktop because it really resembles a website. It's customizable and it's not just cascading links. However, their simplicity I think has been what kind of their superpower for adoption because it's given their users a very rudimentary but simple way to organize their digital presence and distribute it and disseminate it to their audience. So me being a UI UX designer, and I like simplicity, but I also like things to be sexy and user friendly. I thought we can do the same thing in a sense by allowing people to consolidate their digital presence and information that they're sharing online, without having the look or the interface be like kind of rudimentary and overly simple and not very modular. So Zip is customizable. It's a social network. I think has a way bigger chance for a brand or something or someone to go viral and get more attention. Yeah, I'd say those are the two biggest differentiators between Zip and Linktree.
And what do you think about sustainability in web or right now in the future of blockchain, crypto? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So sustainability to me, man, I'm a sustainability advocate. The thing about sustainability, if I can go on a tangent real quick,
Mm-hmm.
is that sustainability isn't. Yes, it's for nature,
Yeah.
but it's really for humans to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people get that twisted. They think, oh, like you're a tree hugger, or oh, like recycling, like oh, you recycle everything, or oh, like who cares if one individual, like does your action really make a difference? And I think and they think it's that all these actions of sustainability is to save the ecosystem. That's a misnomer. We're dependent upon the ecosystem. The ecosystem is not dependent upon humans. So we're not saving the earth or the ecosystem. We're saving ourselves from extinction, right? That's what sustainability is about. So it's funny when you'll be labeled as like, oh, you're a hippie, or oh, like you're a tree hugger because you're talking about sustainability. But that's just like out of ignorance, which I can't blame, fully blame people. But it just comes down to education and the power of media that has kind of tainted sustainability, and made it seem like this kind of bohemian, hippie, gypsy mission. And if that's your mission, like you're just a weirdo. But really, it's about how can we find, how can we live with almost as much luxury that we do now, almost as much convenience that we do now, in a sustainable fashion that doesn't ruin the ecosystem, which gives humans a longer time to live here, right? To live on Earth, to inhabit Earth. It extends our species survival rate, and then it also it balances us out. It balances out society in the sense of sustainability means something that can kind of take care of itself, right? And we've been taught that you have to work to survive, you have to make money to survive, everything is transactional, and that's not necessarily true. So we could solve a lot of problems, world's problems, with sustainability, thinking from a sustainable standpoint. Sustainability in Web3, I think, is like, we should be setting up. Everything should be running off of sustainable energy and green energy. That would liberate. One, that would, we're not burning coal to create energy. Two, it would. The more infrastructure we build around that, the cheaper it gets. Therefore, we could be offering energy somewhat almost free, or at least subsidizing a lot for society, instead of very few companies kind of having a monopoly over energy. So I think that's important, and with communities based around sustainable energy, then we could be running some pretty advanced technology and systems for without the need for individuals to have to like pay for that to happen, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know how you break up the ownership and all that. That's not necessarily. I can't say I have all the answers for that, but sustainability could literally almost for free, because we're always creating waste, and waste can be turned into energy, sustainable energy, and that could be fueling the Web3 revolution. It could be powering blockchains. It could be powering blockchains that are processing transactions and get rid of and offset those fees that humans would otherwise pay. Streaming video, music production, anything that takes a lot of power to produce an output could be substituted and subsidized by green energy, which is sustainable. And by doing that, we're not ruining the world as we're so-called innovating. Because I think a lot of innovation nowadays, it actually, the further technological advances we make, the worse off the ecology becomes, and then natural systems get killed off, and that creates a snowball effect, and then ultimately we will self-extinct our own species. So yeah.
What would you say to somebody who thinks that say the Edison company fucked up Tesla back in the day, and now they have a stranglehold on utilities, power, and electricity, or any of the old systems? How would you say to somebody who's fearful, say, no, the old systems have a stranglehold, with your understanding of how blockchain works, where there's hope for the new paradigm because it's on the underdog tip? Does this make any sense?
Yeah.
I can rephrase it, but
no, yeah, like what is the transition from the industrial age, like that's like over 100 years ago, to the future of civilization and humanity and economy, right? I think like the thing is, it's a big world out there, contrary to what some may think, and there's if you shift your thinking, then we can all live abundant. And that doesn't mean all the same. It's not what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean like, that's not like, not to get into governmental principles, but, people are always talking about like, oh, you're a socialist, or oh, you're a communist. It's not about being a communist, socialist, capitalist, or any of those systems. It's about principles, right? Like running off of principles and education and people being bought in and having skin in the game. And I think the more people that have skin in the game, then naturally, you have less strife, and you have less push and pull, right? And people the more altruistic I think people are, and the more giving and collaborative we are. Don't know if that's a word, but it's about creating like symbiosis, things becoming more symbiotic and aligned with each other. And we don't need to fight. There doesn't need to be a fight, right? It's like we can all work together. And also, if you are to talk about like, oh, it's funny, you'll hear people talk about, not that it isn't true, but you hear people talk about like, oh, if you're like, talking about this or that, like, that someone, people could be out to get you, like health and wellness or whatever. Not saying that isn't true. Not saying there's not some wolves out there, hunting for sheeps. But the thing is, sustainability and health and wellness and all this stuff is like pop culture now. And, all the legacy companies, whether you came from oil or media or finance, they're all starting to diversify what they're doing. And it's almost like natural evolution. You don't want to be the next blockbuster. You don't want to be the next blockbuster that didn't see the shift and was like, nah, people still like to come in, leave their homes, get in their car, take their whole family into our brick and mortar place and, pick out from a very small group of movies and then go home and then have to return it, and then boom, Netflix, right? Like, so no one wants to be the next blockbuster. And so, I see less clash of titans, and I see more either you're going to diversify and be like add fuel to the fire for the natural evolution to happen, in health, wellness, sustainability, blockchain, whatever, or you're just going to become a dinosaur. So I think it's kind of binary, and I think that the people that have had kind of the stronghold on the economy and legacy systems that run the world, I think they get it, and I think like we just got to figure out how can we all work together, how can we all innovate and communicate, to make a better world. And the other thing is, most people don't want to live this extravagant lifestyle. So, no one's out to like take what someone else has. But you run into problems when there's such an imbalance. And that's, I think, in anything in life. If your body's cells have an imbalance, your body's going to have some issues. Mm-hmm. Disease is going to foster, etc. So you can only expect for in society for that to mirror, nature in our bodies. And, when there's a big imbalance of anything, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to have problems. And, no one wants those problems, right? No one wants to have to deal with that. So the more symbiotic we are, the more we work together as much as possible. Share, be altruistic, maybe a little egalitarian, but still, with like, you want to work more and harder, or you just want to work, or you want to create stuff and get compensated for your value. I think there's room for that structure in any society, but I think we need to raise the floor of society, more. So that's a long-winded answer, kind of what we're talking about. But I think there's room for everyone to live abundantly, and I think that shift is already happening. So it's like, how do we all work together? The people in the new age and the people, the OGs. How do we come together and just make things happen?
So I'm going to try a general question now.
Yeah.
What can you say to somebody who's in tech, who's considering more of a plant-based diet or lifestyle, and what can you say to them, either on performance or efficiency? You probably being a previous meat eater and stuff, right, and athlete. So can going plant-based improve your abilities as a tech professional? Is that a weird question? Should I hit that?
It's not a weird question. It's tough. It's a good question. I think I'm not a doctor or a scientist or a nutritionist, but I think I think you could look it up. There's a lot of content out there from like a first principles point of view. One, if you just talk about like meat versus vegetables and fruits and nuts, plant-based foods, our chemistry is set up to process plant-based foods, right? If we were like hunters and gatherers and out, our bodies and our gut and intestines and microbacteria and stuff that we have is set up to better process plant-based foods. Which if you can process foods more efficiently and quicker, then you can extract the nutrients from that gives you energy. And so if we are thinking about being like more efficient, right, about anything, like everything just breaks down into energy. So if I can break down the food source that I'm consuming more efficiently and faster to extract the nutrients and energy from that, then one could say theoretically I'm more efficient. Whereas meat takes a long time to process. I don't knock anyone who eats meat. I used to eat meat. I love meat, but I just don't eat it anymore. But yeah, I mean, from a first principles, breaking it down to like its core concepts, plant-based foods just break down faster with our biology. So that would be my answer for that. In regards to if you're like a techie, and is a plant-based diet going to make you more efficient? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of meat eaters that are way more efficient than me, right? That comes down to the individual. But yeah, I mean, I feel great. A lot of people I know, I've always been healthy. So, cause I was an athlete. So I always ate pretty good, but I think like I've heard from people that, eat pretty meat heavy or intense diets, carb heavy diets, like, simple carbs. I think it's simple carbs. Yeah. They've made the transition to plant-based diets and they've felt way better. I haven't felt like a huge shift, but I know people that said they have, whether it's placebo or not. So.
And let's see. Is there anything you think of that you want to? I'm sure I can keep.
You want a dialogue, or you want to like kind of do the Q&A still?
I'm just kind of like flowing. We can dialogue if that's the vibe.
What do you want to know about that? I think that we from our conversations.
Yeah.
I guess that you're not as versed in, or that you want to like extract some information from me. I guess just like pry.
Exactly, and I'm also in between worlds, like trying to crush like the workflow.
Yeah, for sure.
Have it become second nature, because once we do this a few times,
sitting
here.
Right.
But there also might be the vibe where you actually looking into here might be more like we're still feeling.
Are you seeing me more? I'm trying to look more in.
Yeah. I just say keep trying. I'm not gonna. It's just I think it hits more.
So when you move it, I shouldn't follow it though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I should follow it.
You're looking into their eyes. It's weird, dude. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. Because I'm like, I don't think it's gonna look bad if I the whole time was just looking straight.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm talking to someone.
Right.
But I'll try to do that too. Right now when you're moving, I didn't know if you wanted me to do that.
No, I think you should. I think
okay, cool. Let's do a couple of those.
Part of it. It's just more.
Yeah.
I'm the ADD world. I'm just trying to like
I got
keep people ADD'd out, and you're like.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about like raising capital in like VC.
Okay.
There's equity crowdfunding, which I think is dope.
Okay.
We could talk about crypto.
Or let's talk about money. I think at this point, let's still just kind of, it's more, because even in my head, and it's funny, we're just live hashing it up, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out as like, obviously I'm not fully trying to like, or I'm just in the process of like training my interview kind of skills vibe. So it's it's more about me, like in this meta context, it's more about like Taj trying to like being in the shop and extracting information that like even like when I said like okay I have a link tree but what's up with I don't even have a link tree so I'm just right embody like on some Q&A shit
for sure
but because I mean if you hit something and I like tap in I'll just like probably look at you and we'll start riffing which But at the point, I'm not. At the moment, I'm not really like.
I'm with you, bro. No,
Yeah, it's more just like trying to.
So yeah, those are some topics. Talk about like
Let's just do money fundraising.
VC money fundraising, and then like I like like new cities, kind of like build like that kind of vibe too. I'm down for all that.
For sure. Sweet, let's jump into it then.
I'll give you one sec, dude. You said live. You said it's funny because we're live hashing it out, and then I was like, live hash. Oh my god, is that a fucking domain? Wow. Some decent extensions that you could get live hash with. That's a sick domain, live hash. Even live dash would be dope. Live dash is like what you're doing, bro, like a live dashboard. Doing it live. Yeah, it's fucking sick too. All right, live dash, that's interesting. All right, yep, shoot, whatever you got.
Cool, so let's talk about, your personal, well, we're talking about VC fundraising, so you can either talk more the industry as a scope or your particular...
We can talk about my particular, and then I can tie in the industry.
Okay, so let's just riff on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so funding wise, like as a startup founder, we've raised like 150,000 friends and family. We chose to go that route because there's a few different verticals of fundraising, right? You got VC, you have crowdfunding, which is more like donation kind of donation, and you get like a gift in exchange for that. But it's like, hey, I believe in this product. I'm willing to, literally give you a couple bucks and hope that your thing's successful. And then there's crowd equity funding, right? And then there's actually cryptocurrency, which a lot of you, as you've seen, like since 2017, a lot of projects have shifted over towards that to raise capital for their ideas that they want to build out. So we've chosen friends and family. I was very fortunate with Zip to raise that money, 150K so far. That's been over 3 years though. So in the sense of VC, that's or startup world, that's very small. I don't know where I'm at with VC. I don't know, maybe at one point when we have a lot of juice, and we don't have to sell a massive chunk for a little bit of cash because we have that much value and the VCs just want a piece of it. I think, we can talk. But I think there's, I'm not against VC. It's just like, just like anything, it has to align, with the principles and mission of your company and what you're doing. I'm really fascinated with crowd equity funding, and I'll tell you why. With venture capital, with investing in general, up until a few years ago, it was the Live Jobs Act, or the Jobs Act. You couldn't invest into a private entity unless you were a accredited investor. What that means is like either your net worth is $1 million and above, or that you make I forget the threshold, but it's like either 200. It's between 200 and 300K for like consecutively for like 2 to 4 years, and that excludes a lot of people from investing in the private companies and supporting companies. And the thing is, it was said, or that policy is made out of, we're protecting people that essentially don't have money or that have less lower net worths. But for me, I think it's more excluding people from the opportunity to create, generational wealth or wealth in general, because a lot of people live in check to check. I've lived check to check. Like I grew up living check to check. But I mean, if my mom had the opportunity to invest into a private company that she said, hey, I'm going to put a couple ducats that I would otherwise spend on, food or like a cool experience, trying to like take my kid to do, something like Disneyland or something. And she could invest into a company like VCs can, or angel investors can, accredited investors. And then that company takes off, like that could change someone's life. But to exclude them from that, to say like you're protecting them, if you're living check to check, man, you're living check to check. It doesn't matter how you slice it up, right? So I just think that's kind of a misnomer. that policy was instituted to protect. I think it was more instituted to, make give rich people a vertical to get richer and exclude people that don't have money from potentially gaining or acquiring more wealth. But VC venture capital can really help a lot. I'm just not personally interested in VC that's kind of, what would you call it, like kind of vulture, and it still, VCs making, there's very small percent of the population are in VCs, right? And benefit from VCs. It's like LPs, which are like limited partners, which are like usually, a family office of financiers that are managing rich people's money, invest into VCs, or it's rich individuals that invest into VCs. And yeah, you can lose money, but a lot of them have money to lose, but they can bet on so many things. And then if just one or two of them hit, then they become, astronomically more rich. And that perpetuates like this disparity issue that I think society is ridden with. So I like crowd equity funding because now with the Jobs Act, anyone can invest. Anybody, doesn't matter your net worth. And, if you got $500 to put up and you believe in this company, you can do that. And that 500 could turn into, an incredible return for you on that investment. So I like, and it gets more people involved in a project. I think it's more democratic. I think it's more, I think it's just more human. From like engaging with more people also that are giving you feedback and perspective on your product. So, whether we go crowd equity funding or VC or a combination of both or whatever, I don't know, but I really like crowd equity funding, and I think it's cool to, allow a wide, diverse cast of people, an opportunity, and the ability to get, a tribe around what you're doing and help you grow. I got some buddies in VC, and I think we'll exercise all the options, and whatever makes sense.
Can you talk about chips and tokenization? I don't know. Can you talk about chips yet?
Yeah, fuck it.
We're gonna talk about chips and tokenization as your solution for being creative and fundraising with a utilitarian.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. So one of the biggest issues I've had, and I struggle with as a founder of a startup, is the legacy system is clunky. You have legal paperwork you have to do. You have, like SEC regulations that no one knows about. That's why you need the legal to be compliant. And to get one person involved, if you're like to give them equity, oh my goodness. I mean, that's just like such a headache. And it can actually slow the innovation down. Because you have to then stop working on your product, your brand, your service, your movement. Then you have to get into the legal realm. Then you have to spend a lot of money in the legal realm, get the paperwork done. You have to come to a very rigid agreement between entity one and entity two. And then that may not work out. And so you could spend all this money for it all not to work out. And then you're like not back to square one, but like back to like -5, because you allocated all those resources, time, capital towards something that didn't work out. When I think tokenization, and I think kind of like a token that could be used for an array of things like engagement, social tokens, reward tokens. For supporting a brand, would be a way more efficient vehicle for startup founders and people that have a movement to get people involved in what they're doing, and to not ask for favors from people that they're getting involved with, because they can say, hey, I'm going to give you this engagement token with this token, you can use it to engage in my services. Right? Like the ability to do that, almost with the snap of a finger, and then have people engage with what you're doing and bought into what you're doing too. And then if that token, let's say, becomes more prevalent and more people adopt that token and that ecosystem, then the token has more utility. and it's more widespread, and then the value of that token or related assets and things can grow. You can either use that and exchange it for other goods and services between that ecosystem, or you can just hold it and hope that that value continues to grow and make you a couple bucks. But not like a share. Very different than a share of a company. Very different. Because a share of a company, one, is not a tool to exchange. There's no utility. You just hold it and you hope that company does good, and then you make money as that share grows. Whereas tokenization, especially via like reward points or engagement points, is a reflection, one, of like true economic activity too, because it's, I bought this and then I'm getting a percent back via tokens of my expenditure that I can then take and use however I want, right? And I just think that's cool. And it's shown, there's stats out there, 80% of companies or 80% of consumers prefer a company that's going to issue them points in the form of a reward loyalty point, engagement token, whatever you want to call it, as opposed to a company that doesn't offer said system. So I think it's a no-brainer. The point system in legacy finance, which would be like a coupon or like just digitally through random protocols, is very outdated. But it's like a $300 billion kind of wonky system. It's a lot of opportunity, and I think tokens in various sorts can really innovate and fix, one, the loyalty reward point system in general, two, help people that have an idea, want to get people engaged, don't want to ask for favors, or just want to incentivize people to get engaged. They can issue them those tokens, and the more people, the beauty about cryptocurrency and blockchain is that, of course, if it's decentralized, is that no one really owns the entity. The equity is really just in the token, and so anyone who holds it, essentially, anyone who holds the token dictates and can collaborate on the future of that ecosystem and where it goes. And I think that is it's totally the future. I mean, it's the now and it's the future. So if I had the ability to do that as a founder, right now, like, I think 100% that our project would be 2, 3, 4, 5x where it's at right now.
Cool. What industries can you see? Let me see. Being innovated? What do you think? Like, what industries? Like,
yeah.
Do you think it
disrupted?
Yes. Like, what can this lead into? What just can you see visualize visionary?
In regards to tokens or reward points or engagement
like
points?
Blockchain, smart contracts, and this might be too general. So maybe just what was my point? It was more like, because we keep talking multidisciplinary, like, all this shit's like multidisciplinary, you know what I mean?
So you want to dive in kind of into one kind of realm? Or just get deeper down a rabbit hole of one use case?
Yeah, just to keep, perhaps.
I mean, we could talk about media. We could talk about music.
All right, yeah, can you just riff on that?
Because you like that, you're engaged in that. So
how was the context? Just
so with tokenization, there was a quote. There was a quote that's from a video I was watching on YouTube, and it was saying that tokenization is the native asset of the internet, something of that nature. And that's really true because it's just data. So that could be music, that could be video, that could be anything. It could be an image, anything, right? And you tokenize that, and one piece of data could be broken up fractionally into and have multiple parties own a fraction of that asset. An example would be you have a record label. Okay, record label has these 360 contracts, but these ironclad contracts to where they own everything that said artist makes, right? And nowadays, there's an example it's called sound.xyz, that's the domain. And what you can do is, instead of like a label owning everything that you make, the rights and everything, and capturing all the value and monetary value that's created from that song or music video or whatever, individuals can buy an NFT, which is just a piece or a fraction of your song, ownership of your song or your movie or your whatever digital asset it is. And one, as an artist, it can, by people buying in fractional ownership of your media, it can fund you immediately, put money in your pockets immediately without having any streams, without doing any of that, because people, your supporters, your patrons, essentially invested into you via this vehicle. And then that NFT, that fractional ownership of that digital record, that tokenized wrapping of that digital asset, can then gain value as your brand grows. And then as a fan buying a fractional ownership via NFT of your music, as that music becomes more popular and that song becomes more popular, then the value of that NFT becomes worth more. And then I can sell that, and now someone else has ownership of that NFT. And in that transaction, as the owner of that NFT, I make money because it gained value from the point that I bought it. And then the artist makes money because through cryptocurrency, like Ethereum, it's smart contracts. And so in the code, in these tokens, you can code, which just means like you can add information and equations that get triggered by events. So person B bought it from person A. That triggers an event, and from that trigger, an equation can happen inside the code, and the funds that were used to buy that token or that NFT then get distributed automatically from the code, does the calculation automatically to the artist, gets a piece in the form of a royalty. The token owner, the original token owner, gets the difference of what they bought it for and what it's worth now. And then the new owner gets the NFT, the rights to that. And so if it continues to gain value, then that new token owner would gain that value and that incentive to hold, to sell later. And then that person B sells that tokenized asset, song, whatever, to person C. That triggers the equation again. Person B gets their profit. Maybe not profit. It could lose value, but person B will get whatever money back from that purchase. Person C will get the rights to that new NFT or to that NFT, and the artist or the creator of the original content gets another royalty from that sale. So I mean, this is going to change everything that we know about ownership, in the real world and digitally.
All right, let's see.
Did that give you some? Was there some nuggets in there?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it made sense. Like I said, I'm processing about half of it, and then just So it was a good vibe. Yeah, that was definitely on the right tip. Let's do like one or two more, just thoughts, and then maybe we peep it and just review it and make sure we're on the right track.
Sure.
All right, so let's see. Gamification. Have you talked about gamification?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, gamification.
Let's talk about gamification.
What is gamification in the new paradigm?
Let's talk about gamification, and then let's talk about crypto cities.
Cool.
So 2 things.
Let's do it.
Gamification goes along with the whole tokenomics and tokenized assets and data. It's interesting. It's like, so in technology, in apps, Silicon Valley, over the past 10 years, gamification has really became ubiquitous. Everyone's trying to gamify. Now that doesn't mean like everyone's literally making a game, but it's saying like how can we make our platform like a game? How can we make our platform? How can we institute? How can we institute kind of like, what would you call it, activity on our platform that is fun, that gives people like dopamine and gives people excitement to use our platform. That's gamification. Making something that's kind of rudimentary or making something that's kind of stale, technologically speaking, fun to use. That's gamification. And the better someone feels using your platform because you've gamified it and or incentivized them to use it through gamification, the more adoption you're going to have, right? So I think gamification is inevitable no matter what your technology is. So I'm pretty stoked to do that with Zip. We got some gamified stuff with some like crypto integrations and interactions with the app. I don't know exactly from the gamified standpoint what we're gonna do, but we got some ideas brewing, so you'll just have to stay tuned for those. But making it fun to use is essentially gamification, and that can dramatically change, the adoption and would you call it patronage of of your platform.
Was that the cities we talked about? We said
no. Crypto cities.
Crypto cities? What about crypto cities?
Yeah. So, my goal, my like true north in life is to build sustainable cities. With blockchain, and, I don't want to touch on it too much, but like with COVID and things, becoming like work from home becoming very common place. In the corporate world, and in the workplace in general. Now we're seeing a culture of people really being able to live wherever they want, right? And I think society and individuals are completely underestimating what happens with the decentralization and redistribution of the workplace, going from these mega hubs that are all hyper concentrated in cities, to the ability for groups and people to come together and build their own communities, even cities, outside of mega cities how we know them, and for the economy to maybe even become more efficient. That could go off in a lot of different ways, but. So I think a new thing that we're going to see, and you're already seeing it. There's like City DAO, which was Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum, started. There's been multiple mentions of crypto cities. I think the future is going to be these crypto blockchain cities ran off of sustainable energy to subsidize the cost for its citizens and really. Liberate their time and allow individuals and people to follow more passions while being more mentally having more mental wellness and being more mentally sound, happiness, and the human interaction that's going to come from these new cities, these new crypto blockchain cities based on sustainability is going to spawn a whole new way of existence. Even Wyoming literally passed policy for DAOs. It's essentially an LLC wrapped in the shell of a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, tied into not virtual world, but like real land. So a DAO can now have authority and or say and power over a real community. Dude, out of this world stuff. For us to be alive in these times is like the probability of us being alive and then being alive during the biggest transfer of wealth and innovation and everything and beyond is just it's very hard to comprehend, but it's very exciting at the same time.
So when you're on this return to the land tip where you're trying to get real land, live a real life, and everything like that, what is a day in the life in the future when you're on that? Are you assimilated with the return to land plus embracing VR, AR, XR, crypto, everything? Or are you eventually going to wean off all the digital shit? Or how do you see, paint us a picture of a future where it's return to the land plus all the best of the return to the land plus all the best of intelligent technology usage plus sustainable supply chains.
Yeah.
Paint us a picture.
Yeah, so that's a loaded question, but like sustainable supply chains. You know, what does it look like for a citizen, a day in the life of a citizen that lives in like kind of like the sustainable blockchain city? You know, what does it look like to, what does the return back to nature look like, but with the innovation in modern realm of all the stuff that we know today as modern that we've built over the last, you know, a couple hundred years. Very interesting, man. I think for me, I'll tell you what my day would look like. One, I'd love to have, I don't even need a big dwelling, but like very modern modular dwelling built into like the terrain. Okay. Maybe on a hill with a bunch of other dwellings, apartments, however you want to call it, built into nature instead of on top of nature. So from a thermodynamic standpoint, you know, heating, cooling, as much as we can tied into how we build our dwellings, instead of having to rely on heavily on always using either technology that we what do you call it, manufactured technology, and like heating, cooling systems. So I have a very modern dwelling with a sick view, a bunch of surrounded by neighbors that have the same thing. I could walk on a path that's not concrete, and that's good for my joints and everything. And I can see a bunch of nature, but I also have access to all the luxuries that we currently have access in these concrete jungle cities, without the anxiety of constant horns and cars, because even the transportation systems could be, I could get on an EV bicycle or something that's ran off sustainable energy. I don't even have to own it. Get on it, boop, use my crypto, you know, boop, watch or smart watch or card or whatever, get on that, go to my next location, hit like a yoga session by the beach where the practitioner isn't even worried about paying, because the community itself just takes care of that person, or they just have access to all their needs and beyond. And I take that class. I don't have to be scheduled or subscribed, whatever. You know, I may have to like sign up a slot, but I don't have to have you know, all these subscriptions that all have like this nominal fee, and that's only what I can use and nothing else. Just fluid, man. You could live this fluid life, and then I could pop into, you know, say a class where I could learn some code, and you know, that'd be in like this tech sector of the city, where like Wi-Fi and all that's kind of really focused. So you know, you have that modern amenity, yet in these other sectors they're not you know, you're not bombarded with signals and radio waves going, because it's all masterfully planned by, you know, a consortium that is you know, planned this city out. On my journey, I could then walk around, you know, a lake, and there'd be fruit trees and food forest, and I could just go pick an apple off a tree. Doesn't cost me anything, and our ecology is taking care of that food forest, so like no one even needs to tend to that. And then I could go pick some fruits and veggies for dinner that night, and I don't need a membership. It doesn't need to be my garden. And, people that love gardening would be in that garden. And for the value that they bring, they get taken care of, by the society just takes care of them. And, the intangibles, we can figure all that out. Just amazing interaction, man. You can just go throughout your day and engage in different classes, learn new stuff, interact with people. There's no violence because you don't need it, because there's no shortage of everyone has their basic needs met. And then, I don't know, man. I mean, it's like the possibilities are endless, so it's like hard to wrap my brain around, but very joyous, very interactive. And a lot of these things, these modern things that cost money, could be subsidized from the sustainable nature of the economy and of how we utilize the land and resources, and how we take inventory of the land, resources, and tools. And yeah, man. I mean, that would be a super fire day. Maybe in the day, go home. Go home, hop on my computer, work for a little bit, whatever, with a sick view, then maybe throw on some VR goggles, and have like a powwow or go to like a concert that is happening in Brazil. And I can go to that concert with my homies from all around the world, but I'm not submersed, and I'm not stuck in a city with all these anxieties and just things going on, police violence, all these things that really like tamper with our what would you call it? With our security.
What's that?
No, talk to me.
No, it's a circadian rhythm.
Well, circadian rhythm or sense of like balance and health, and sense of security. And and people could really like their true artistic or creative, the magic could come out. And if you want to tap into this virtual world, cool. But it's more to augment how you currently live, or really to connect you like almost interdimensionally to, somewhere that's otherwise 2,000-3,000 miles away. Yeah. But it's not to extract all your attention as value, and make you forget about the ails that affect you in the current civilization or society that you live in. It's not an escape. Right? VR, AR would be, it would truly augment an already beautiful, not to say utopia, because nothing's perfect. I don't even believe in that. But like, as close as you can get, like, people are just happy. And VR and AR wouldn't be there to distract you. It'd be there to augment your experience, and connectivity, worldwide.
Sweet. Yeah, I think we should let's preview this shit and make
For
sure
sure, my
we're
boy.
not just wasting a bunch of time.